Tanshikiwa mes amis, Samson Lamontagne de Shnikashun. How you doing, my friends? My name's Samson Lamontagne, and November 16th is Louis Riel Day here in Saskatchewan. So we honor Louis Riel's life. À l'école Georges Vanier, we started with a smudge, and merci mes amis, Lisa, Deb, Hope, Laura, Egua, Amanda, for being part of that smudge this morning. It was a great way to start the day. After that, we had announcements, so I put together a little PowerPoint that I shared with the whole school. So Louis Riel started off with Julie, Louis Riel's mother. She was the sixth daughter of Marie Anne Gabouri and Jean-Baptiste Lagimondière, who came from Quebec. Julie grew up really, really religious, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to become a nun or to have a family. Well, that decision was made pretty easy once she learned about Louis Riel Sr., who was born in Île-à-la-Crosse, Saskatchewan. His family was French, and he has Indigenous ancestry as well. He moved with his family to St. Boniface Red River, where he became a leader of the Métis people. So Julie and Louis, they met each other, and Louis Riel asked Julie to marry him, and after careful consideration, she agreed. They ended up having 11 children, and Louis Riel Jr. was the firstborn. On October 22nd, 1844, Louis Riel was born in St. Boniface, Red River, Rivière Rouge, known as Winnipeg now, Winnipeg, Manitoba. Louis spent his early years in St. Vital, where he went to school. Little Louis grew accustomed to the excitement of the buffalo hunt and the impressive Red River carts, La Charrette de la Rivière Rouge, that rolled noisily across the prairie. Louis loved being at school. He was an excellent student, and at the age of 14, Louis was chosen to go to the College de Montréal in order to become a priest. It was an 8-year program. On the way there, he actually ran into his dad, and his dad was heading back home, and Louis was heading to school. That would be the last time Louis saw his dad, because in his 6th year at school, Louis found out his father had passed away. This really affected Louis, and he left the program in 1865. After leaving the priesthood program, Louis worked for a Montreal lawyer, which led him down the political path. Louis returned to St. Boniface at the age of 23 in 1868. Many changes had taken place in the settlement during Louis's absence, and few of these changes were to the liking of the Métis living there. It did not take long for Riel to realize that the Métis had good reason to be worried. Riel met with other Métis in the community to discuss the situation and to plan violent-free courses of action. Louis didn't want to fight. He didn't want people getting hurt or killed. He wanted to use his brain and to work with the government. So he sent letter after letter, and they just ignored him. The Métis believed that the newcomers in the area would be opposed to their French and Michif languages, along with their Roman Catholic religion. Naturally, the Métis also wanted to protect their right to own land. Louis was the best educated man in the area. He understood politics and the law, and was fluent in French, English, and Cree. He had all the skills needed to lead a group of voyageurs, buffalo hunters, and cartmen. During the Red River resistance is key. It's not a rebellion. They weren't rebelling against Canada. They were resisting what Canada was trying to do. 1869 to 70, Louis led the Métis, who were upset about the Hudson's Bay Company's sale of Rupert's Land to Canada. This sale happened without the input of the Indigenous people living there. The Métis formed a provisional government. That means the government just put up for a short amount of time. And with the leadership of Riel, they drew up a list of rights. What were those rights Louis was fighting for? He was fighting for schools for children, for language to be taught, and also for religion. A lot of Métis back in the day, and still now, are very Catholic. He was fighting for those rights and other rights as well. The passage of these laws led to the creation of Manitoba in 1870, securing Louis Riel's place as the founder or father of Manitoba. There'd be no Manitoba without Louis Riel. Riel soon found himself faced with exile and harassment from the Canadian government. Although elected as a member of Parliament, he was not allowed to take his seat. For fear of his life, Louis had to flee to the United States, Montana, where he became a teacher. Before he did that, though, Louis snuck in to Parliament and did this pledge of oath and got signed in there. So he snuck in there and got out of there. So that's pretty cool that people really, really liked Louis enough, trusted him, that he was elected a member of Parliament, even though the Canadian government didn't agree. In 1884, a group of Métis from Saskatchewan visited Louis in Sun River, Montana. Look at that guy, Gabriel Dumont. They were hoping to persuade Riel to return to lead the Métis resistance there, and he accepted at once. Gabriel Dumont knew that the Métis needed Louis Riel's help. Riel's plan was to force negotiations with Ottawa for free title to lands and for provincial status with representation in Ottawa. Riel's ability to inspire the Métis people to action was his greatest attribute as a leader. The Métis defended themselves during the 1885 resistance and won a few battles. Unfortunately, Louis's military strategy was hampered by his concept of religion and not wanting to hurt people. He didn't carry a gun in battle. He carried a cross and prayed for his friends and family. Louis, Gabriel, and the Métis lost the war at the Battle of Batoche, May 9th, 12th, 1885. Louis surrendered on May 15th, 1885, and was taken to Regina as a prisoner, where he was charged with high treason. Louis Riel felt a responsibility to his people. His last act as a leader was to write his dernier memoir, a long statement of the Métis cause. Riel was found guilty of high treason and was hung on November 16th, 1885. He was buried in St. Boniface, Manitoba. But before they hung him, they gave him a choice. They said, Louis, all right, if you say that you're crazy and that everything you work for means nothing, then we'll let you go. But Louis couldn't do that to his family and friends and for his people. He knew that he had a higher purpose. So he gave the ultimate sacrifice, sacrificed his life. Louis Riel was not a traitor. He fought for the rights of all people. He fought to have schools so that children have the opportunity to learn. He fought for religion so that we can celebrate our Catholic faith. He fought for language and culture so that we can all be proud of who we are. We now look back and realize that Riel was trying to help build a better world, a world that includes the rights for all people. That is one of the reasons we honor his life every November 16th. Merci Louis Riel for speaking up for those who do not have a voice. Because of your ultimate sacrifice, Métis culture and the Michif language will live on forever. So here's a little prayer that mon vieux Norman Fleury, Michif language keeper, helped put together. He shared it with me. So I want to share it with you. Au nom du Père et du Fils et du Saint-Esprit, le bon Dieu, notre Créateur, Ichi Hinan, Kaya, Chewani, Kayak, Awanakianan, la nation de Michif, puis notre langue le Michif. Au nom du Père et du Fils et du Saint-Esprit, ainsi soit-il. So I want to say Kishja Marci to everyone. Merci pour ton temps. Some awesome resources with information on Louis, the Métis alphabet coloring book. You can actually look in here under L is for Louis. And let's see if I can find it here quick for you. And here we go. L is for Louis. You got a coloring sheet and a lot of awesome information. And for you readers, you want to know more about Métis Michif culture, this is an excellent book. The Northwest is Our Mother by Jean Tayet. All right, so Kishja Marci, thank you very much. Merci pour ton temps. Et gua merci Louis Riel. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Ekoshe.